Welcome to day 8 of Landscape Painting Challenge, and today we have a romantic country cottage scene with house, big tree on the right, further trees, some house, grass, and beautiful sunset sky color, starting with blue, becoming lighter, and slowly becoming yellowish and like peach pink. I have my mixing palette from yesterday with greens. I cleaned space for sky, which I will take ultramarine blue with cerulean and definitely lemon yellow there as well. A little bit too much. If it's too much, we can something remove. Mix. More cerulean. Then I will also clean this area for this it's lemon yellow with a tiny touch of pink. No, I don't like this color. Again. Lemon yellow. Maybe there was a little bit dirty pink. And then there's lemon yellow with permanent rose. Here I have permanent rose with Sennelier red from yesterday. Very pale amount. So let's add Indian yellow, a touch of Indian yellow. And then I would like to have some violet, which I'm taking manganese violet. There are clouds in the far distance with the blue color, main blue color, and taking paper piece to test. We'll separately add permanent rose. And separately lemon yellow. When they're mixed together, they smaller amount of lemon yellow definitely. I want to add to blue mix manganese violet. I see, because that is evening sun and it's very warm. Sun is shining in the evening, very warm. So I'm adding manganese violet. And I like this color better. Now I will apply this watercolor mix all across the sky area, even where the tree is, because tree is darker. And with an elastic eraser, removing excess amount of graphite. I have a very pale lines for the tree because there are more little tiny brush strokes will be added later, not as an outline, but as tiny spots and different type of brush strokes to create that tree outline. There's no extra graphite left. House lines can be stronger graphite because there we will be adding darker brush stroke lines and we will cover those. I'm more worried about the outline of tree. Now be sure that your water is clean after mixing watercolors, and let's start with sky area. We will apply with big flat brush. watercolor mixes are ready. Checking under angles so that I have even moist surface. No puddles. I can lift easily, as you can see, shining. And now, while it's still moist, I'm taking watercolors. Now here we have a lower part is already dry, so I'm reapplying water again because it dried out. If you see that your water is dried out, you just need to add. And I will add pink that is on the lower part, a little bit more of pink. And then carefully this yellowish, light yellowish mix, so that I don't get green watercolor mix where I add yellow, but it transits very lightly from blue to yellow and pink. Lift where we have lighter areas for trees while the surface is still wet, moist. We can lift some parts where, for example, tree has the most lighter parts. And now the transition from blue to yellow and pink is very subtle and light. I would say even it would be nice to go slightly maybe darker, but now I can do that only after drying time. And while the surface is still moist, I'm taking finer tip brush and very carefully adding clouds in a distance. Like a thin line. And lower part is slightly darker, adding a little bit more, and some very light pink on top with a touch of yellow. And distance clouds are very narrow in size because they're far away. A little bit here and there more. Reference is my guide for these clouds. Maybe add a little bit more here. Another one. I think that will be enough. And now I need to wait for this layer to dry. Now while the sky area is getting dry, I can continue with the lower part where we have grass. We can block in color for the background. First layers for the grass, and I'm taking sap green, more of sap green, adding lemon yellow in the very front, and there's a little bit from yesterday. There's a little bit from yesterday's mix, which is 𝗝𝗏𝗏 violet with transparent yellow, and starting also with water. This grass goes all the way here and to the front. Very lightly. This part is slightly darker, so I'm taking mix that I have. 𝗝𝗏𝗏 violet. And then there's a little bit of darker edge here on the left. And then there are more browner grass here. And there's more greener here as well. Very lightly. And it goes behind the house. Brush strokes are bold, wide. And let's mix here sap green with, let's take Indian yellow and alizarin crimson. Too much of alizarin crimson, a little bit more of sap green, and yellow. More yellow. Little touch of, let's add a little touch of blue to this mix. Just adding some brush strokes of that grass that looks like has faded already. Just a small notion of that. Here, let's, and green. Like this. Then adding here 𝗝𝗏𝗏 green with touch of alizarin crimson and this brown that we have here. And 𝗝𝗏𝗏 green. And finer tip brush, putting water and blocking in color for the trees that are bushes behind. Smoothing. Lemon yellow for some brighter touches of green. And pushing slightly this darker green into this grass. It's like in between lighter parts of grass. A little bit more darker areas here and there. Next one. Starting from darker. Brighter green. Sap green with lemon yellow. I'm trying not to leave white spots in between these bushes because they are there, a lot of them, and they're different kinds. And if your green's gonna be different, that's good, that's even great. Don't be obsessed with having the same watercolor mix. The more you will add varieties here, you see there are trees, grass, some flowering plants that don't have flowers yet, but also different kinds of trees, bushes. They all are slightly different in green color, so having different varieties of greens here will make this painting richer, more interesting. Even if it's just a sketch, it doesn't matter. Going with darker somewhere, there's like going in behind some bushes, some are in front. Just creating this slightly messy look, but that from when observed from a distance, it will give a feeling that there's a bunch of green trees. Then we need brown mix that is like more to the gray side. So I'm using sky color of ultramarine blue cerulean. I'm taking lemon yellow and touch of alizarin crimson. More ultramarine blue. And lemon yellow. Testing on a piece of paper. And this is the first base color for the rock wall, their little wall built from rocks. Also here we will add more darker, some rocky type brushstrokes later. A little bit light, a warmer gray color is here. Adding this part of this fence little is slightly lighter. Also something is here. Now house. I want to free a little bit of space here, and I want to mix Indian yellow with a little touch of alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. A little bit more of ultramarine blue. Oh, here I have a little touch. and much paler. So we apply water to house. Even going on the bricks that are around that window is okay. Working with finer brush stroke, fine to brush. And then there's a darker, slightly darker area underneath that roof that is overlapping and creating cast shadow. Then we need more of alizarin crimson and Indian yellow for the decorative bricks that are on the sides of the house and around windows. Then also here. And they shouldn't be super straight because this is an old cottage house and those bricks are not so accurate and straight. Now let's apply water here. And apply layer to this side. And it is also in the shadow because trees casting shadow and part of the roof. Adding a little bit more watercolors. And this surface can be later added some uneven brush strokes to create this uneven look. Building more bricks here around window. Slowly, but you don't need to be super precise here. This house is old and it feels like bricks are moving and not so accurate. And there are also bricks around that small window on the very top. Now the sky area is dry and I want to add some parts of tree, like block in lighter parts with sap green and Sennelier red. Here are some parts that went on to the house. Like this. Let me zoom out. Taking bigger brush. Have here sap green with Sennelier. And just randomly putting first lighter areas of that bigger tree. Try to see this tree as not each leaf separately, but in sections. There are sections that are lighter. We add them first. Like this, I think, is the lightest. It goes a little bit higher. Then there are sections slightly darker. Leaving little blank space, because there are these spaces where the light is shining through, going slightly into the part where we have lighter, and we can even blend that part and make smooth transition. Leaving gaps for tree branches. Because when we have an overall painting, an overall sketch, we don't paint individual leaves. And this middle part is more intense with bigger, like these blocks of darker, lighter areas of tree color, foliage, leaf foliage color. Here and there maybe some lighter parts. Here we even can go darker. And then as it goes further from this middle part, we will be adding more finer details with finer to brush, like just little where the leaves are more individual, but still like just a spot, like a brush stroke, not as individual leaves. And slowly these spots are becoming as a whole part of the tree. And then we have, let's add indigo here, a little bit more of indigo and Indian yellow. Then we have darker tree. On both sides, it's darker. Tree is darker on both sides, leaving middle part lighter. And then it's much darker here where it goes into the green part. These big tree branches. Smooth if needed. Some textured brush strokes can be added because this tree has a lot of texture on its surface. Then again, here it's also much darker because it goes into this green part. Adding here and there because we partly see it. We will be adding more of greenery to make it fuller. here and there. These branches are added. And now more green. I'm taking sap green here, adding a little bit of brown from here to get another more different green color. And then it goes smaller as it goes more further from this middle core. A little bit sap green. These leaves that are more outer appear darker because with the contrast with the very bright sky background color. Looking at reference for guidance is how far in this composition goes out these branches and leaves. And then I see that it's also here behind this lighter part. Smoothing, blending in some places leaving more crisper and building up this tree. You can make some splashes or take an older brush, use it dry, some softer brush, and slightly moist it. And you can go also with this stippling, like damping. Try to make it, and this can go in some places just to give texture for this tree, to make this tree richer here and there, not everywhere. Don't now overwork this. Remember, with landscape painting it's better to have a lesser amount of different kind work in one place. Here are some more individual leaves visible that are sticking out. This part is more darker. Need more color, more layers. This goes like this. This goes more like down. These brush strokes, also notice how those tree branches and leaves are built up. Then there's some gap, and then it's filled with more foliage. Then on the other side we have another tree. a little bit of branches are visible out. So just tiny, tiny brush strokes here and there. Not too much, just a little, like little accent that there is this. And adding some lines of branches. Maybe some here branches are sticking out without leaves. We can make them also slightly darker. Indigo, alizarin crimson, and Indian yellow. Darker brown color. Here and there, making parts of tree branches darker than they are right now, because they are inside, much definitely in the shadow area of the tree. And wiggly lines for such an old tree will make more realistic and textured. Perlin green with a touch of brown and lemon yellow. Adding more darkness. Now it's a little bit too light, too light. And this green is not so light, so sap green. It's still all that trees in the shadow. Even leaves that look like are in lighter part, they're still not so light. Remember that we are just creating an appearance of this tree, not completely copying what is there. Maybe also a little bit this technique will give more finer details with these last leaves that are sticking out. Like final details. Not overwork. Reminding myself, do not overwork. Now I'm taking the same old brush that we just did the stippling, and I want to see how it will add texture to these bushes here. and I like how it gives texture here and there to this grass in front. So an old brush, slightly opened, dry, gives a nice grass texture. We have it here on the side. Again, adding different greens for variety, texture, and color changes. So this part we have darker. Now with finer to brush. Here we have some greens, adding sap green. And behind there's a little bit more. And then there are more 𝗝𝗏𝗚 maroon color with alizarin crimson, more reddish looking. And some darker green closer to the house. And a little bit of grass, which we can take again. And there's a little bit more here as well. And also there's some greens on this side of the house, behind the tree. And more finer lines here. Now I have gray roof on this part, in this part. Painting. Straight with watercolors, not watering. Checking for some shadows, and I see that the lower part is slightly darker. Now then there's another roof which is lighter gray. Applying. Front of the building with some reddish looking doors, or what is there? Just brush strokes as details. We don't need detailing for this further house because it's away. It should be less detailed. We need to accent more work on this one. And then there are trees, more trees. That green is lighter, so I'm adding a little bit of blue, what I have here, and we are creating perspective. That's something that is further, is lighter, paler, leaving little gaps there. It looks like birch tree, and they have white tree. And I'm carefully leaving white line. Zoom closer. I'll zoom closer so you can see. Here, so birch tree has almost white trunk. That's what I'm doing. Carefully with brush going into the sky area. Setting some darker details. They're not so flat. They can't be so even, but they are paler. Maybe not so visibly in the photo reference, but in order to make them go into the background, I know this rule from perspective that everything that is far away is lighter, paler, and not so intense. And now these are darker than this part because it comes closer. Taking bigger brush, mixing Perlin green with a touch of Indian yellow. And adding, they're also darker than these ones here. Washing brush, and I want to smooth. Adding more. Carefully how it goes into the sky area with little more precise, tinier details. And then it goes behind the house. Careful with the roof. We haven't yet started with the roof. There's some visible white areas. There's the little detail from roof. So I'm going careful around roof. We don't want to overpaint that area. And with tiny brush strokes into the sky area. Careful with brush around roof. We don't want to mess with that part. Like this. And now with this older brush, I want to add some grass here. A little bit more of sap green with the previous mix. Spreading older brush so there are more bristles. And adding in the back. There's some alizarin crimson flowers here. You can get creative. Maybe some yellow, some darker parts, making this little front yard more beautiful and richer. Now front porch is brown. Then the roof is reddish brown. So I'm taking more of alizarin crimson with the brown mix that was here. A little bit of Indian yellow. It's not so. And adding line. Starting with lighter. top of the roof, and side is visibly red. And then it goes very, very dark brown, which I'm taking indigo with Indian yellow and touch of, let's take 𝗲𝗏𝗏 maroon. Alizarin crimson, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 maroon, it's up to you. You can experiment with your pigments. And then the lower part under that is dark. Using finer to brush. And then here it's way, way thicker and darker. Now what I have now, it kind of looks flat. When this will get dry, I will add more shadows because this is light, and after drying it, it's just light. There's no shadow. I want to add shadow. Then I have this red color for this detail where the water is going down from roof. And with the same color, I can add some details to these decorative bricks on the side. You can use here colored pencils if you like. Then part of bricks go around window like this. And then it goes like this. And then there's like this. Here and there. And so it's not so perfectly now. I don't want to be so perfect. What I will do, I will wash my brush, clean it, and slightly smooth because it's not so crisp. Now this part is dry, so I'm taking brownish gray watercolor mix, apply shadow, and smooth applied layer. Now this darker color for window frame. In the reference photo, I can see that this window is opened, but I'm not making that. I will color it gray, like this. Upper part is much darker. And darker and gray color as well. Now there's also this part darker, so I'm taking this gray blending. I have shadow. Now other side of the roof is also in this red color, brownish red. Leaving a little bit for window. And then there's another wall. And a little bit of roof again. It's here. And a little bit of that roof again. Careful between those branches. Just an idea, just a little touch. Now this lower part, let's apply also this red. And then there will be darker lines, but first look what is between those darker lines on the roof, because it's not dark, it's very light, and then those lines are. And here we have shadow part. And then we have the here as well. And here the front side is also darker. Now with house there's a lot of details. And bricks. Oh, let's apply house part. There's a lot of details, and it's nice to make as much details as possible. The more details with the house, the more realistic it's going to look. And leaving a little gap for the flower that is hanging there with a little pot. And this side as well, careful around those greens. Doors are darker brown, but I am painting lighter than to add darker lines. Then brick color, which is Indian yellow with alizarin crimson. With alizarin crimson. More of alizarin crimson. Lighter, definitely lighter. Nope, lighter and more yellow. Adding a little bit of brown. And smoothing. Then around door entrance, there's also bricks. From both sides. Then there are also bricks here. Now darker brown edge around door, and it's thicker here and becoming thinner because this is under angle. This house has been taken a photo under angle. The same here, thicker, and it disappears. More precise lines. And adding those lines on the door. In the middle. And slightly going over so they're not so visibly. Like glazing very light brown. Like this. A little bit darker we can add on this side. Like this is shadow. And then there's a little basket with some flowers, greens, and reds. Glazing. Now we have applied overall view for this house. Here we have another window. And now for details, and it's up to you how much you are willing to work for this painting. You can already call it done, or you can add more details. For example, like these lines. You can use, for example, colored pencils. And I want to add another layer of shadow here. With colored pencils, you can add bricks like we did for the ancient archway. There was a cobblestone road, and we can use the same technique here. Or I have this eradicator brush, which is super tiny, and I can add here and there bricks with the side of this brush. And those bricks are in so different colors, so I'm using all color mixes that I have here on my palette. And here's a little tiny window, and I'm adding different colored bricks. Some are darker, some are more reddish, some are even black, some are very light. So creating this mixture of bricks and recreating texture. Then there are some part looks like damaged house wall. I'm constantly checking with reference, so maybe I'm not talking all the time freely because I'm constantly checking reference, even that I'm not painting identical, but I have guidances there. So I'm constantly checking, following. Here I forgot, I will add some darker line here. Now look for details. What you can add, ask yourself by looking in reference what I can add more. What I can add more, which details I didn't notice, what am I missing? And this building has, for example, here, definitely I see shadow. I'm taking finer tip brush and adding shadow. To make this house more realistic, we need shadow areas as well. It's important. Here we have greeneries. You can add them with little brush strokes. Then, yeah, with the eradicator brush, I will add more details to the house wall. Also here. Something darker, lighter, just going back and forth to reference. And looking what I can add. to make this painting richer. I see there are wooden parts sticking out for the roof construction, and I want to add them with just a touch of iridicator brush, like tiny detail. I don't need to be precise, just a little accent and it looks good. It looks like a part. Now I see that this part of the house is in the really darker shadow, so I'm taking my brown watercolor mix and applying shadow. What else? There's a little lantern on the entrance. Let's add with tiny brushstroke just a hint of the lantern. And that's it. I will show you closer. With tiny brushstroke, just a triangle top. I'm not thinking of this, oh, I need to paint a whole lantern. You just add an overall look. Triangle top, body, and it is attached. That's it. It looks like a lantern. If I look on the surrounding, oh, I want to add bricks to the wall, where the brick wall is. Also using a iridicator brush, I can add somewhere more. Then I can add here more. Recreating. Here with the sketching of landscapes, with different kind of brushstrokes, you are recreating the appearance that you see in front of you or on reference photo. Then let's add a little bit more of greeneries here and there. Too light. As it dried out, this grass area looks too light. Just tiny brush strokes. Remember to not overwork. This is, I think, the main thing that I'm getting out of this landscape challenge. Do not overwork your landscape. More darker and intense greeneries of these bushes I want to add, because they are in the background and I see that they're much darker. A little bit darker elements here. And some more shadows here and there on the house. Like this part can go way in the shadow. This part can go way in the shadow. As well as this one. A little bit of color for the roof. Glazing. And this window has something inside, like wall. More shadow on top. Careful not to lose details. More shadow here. This back part here is in the shadow to make this front part of the house move to the front side. I'm adding shadow on this wall that is in the back. some textured brush strokes on the wall will give a nice touch. And I want to finish this painting as it is right now. I'm already happy with the result. It's a really nice sketch that you can do outside, and one day I pray that the weather will be really good. Last day I want to do sketching outside to show you how I approach as I look on the view and I do the sketch on my paper or sketchbook. I will see on that day. So thank you for following this journey, this tutorial. Hope you learned something new and enjoy the process. Thank you. And here's the whole view of the finished work.